says I have one viewer. Shout out. That's what I said. I was muted as well. Looks like it's only me here. I don't understand. What the fuck? I think YouTube is still kind of glitchy, sending out to members. Cool. Let me do a thumbnail in the meanwhile. Fuck is his hair? What is that? Huh? Don't go there. Oops. Alright, I'm gonna screenshot. That's a thumbnail. Hey, at least you get what you look at. Why is no one here? Huh? You two. What do you do? All right, do it public. Public then, I should change it. Hello? No one's here? Still? All right, we got 12 people now. Hey. I was here all along. Can you believe it? Hi, guys. What's up? It keeps doing this. And then I spin it. And then the cable runs out. It's a problem. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, it doesn't tell members for some reason. YouTube glitching out, man. What's up? Let's get some background music. Yeah. Yeah. What am I streaming today? I have no clue. I'm down for whatever. I said I was gonna read, but I don't know how. I don't have any short books. Why do I have 2 sets of headphones? Astute observation. These are for my phone. Shit. Racer, I hope you're not watching. Look, these are my... Oh, by the way... It's not up on the screen yet. So, all the rappers are streamers now, right? Look at T-Pain. This is T-Pain. You see something? Huh? He's got my headphones. What? Does he know those are Pewdiepie headphones? Or did he just like get them because he liked them? I kind of wish he got them because he liked them, right? That means the design is good. T-Pain Floor Gang? I mean, that'd be cool too. I'll take it. Closet fan? Well, he ain't hiding it well if that's the case. Maybe he has kids? What the fuck does that mean? Black and red is cool. Yeah. it's a simple spell, but quite effective. I don't know if that's the meme, but I said it. Don't judge me, kiddos. Still cool. Hey, T-Pain, shout out. Appreciate you. I look small. Hold up. Can't be looking like this. Huge. That's better. Now I'm large. Now I feel superior. I should really put the camera down there so I can talk like this. What's up, fellow 9-year-olds? You pesky 9-year-olds. You like the glasses? Why, thank you. I really don't like them. I look better without. Come on, let's get real. Eh? I'm so blind, dude. I can't see anything. Blind Swede. How did Vikings do it, huh? Huh? If I saw someone like 10 meters away, I wouldn't know who the fuck it is. They just kill everyone? God damn it. Bro, I am so sore. Been doing a bunch of construction and workout, and I feel my entire body just like, ugh. This would be a low-key stream. I should title that. How low-key? Fuck it, we might do some reading. That's how low-key. One screen? Dude. Having many screens is cringe. Alright. All these streamers. It looks like shit. It looks bad. One screen. Face. There we go. Oh shit. Alright, so... For those of you who don't know, I have Super Chat back on. And it all goes to charity. All the money from the stream. I ain't keeping a dime. Alright, just so we're clear. Got $100 from the real Chunky Donkey. Happy birthday. Yes. Have a great one. Watching since 2012. Always love watching you play games. My favorite was Facade. Hell yeah. Anyway, thanks for getting me through my parents' death. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Bump. And putting a smile on my face. Love you, man. Appreciate you. You are reacting to hate videos again. Hate videos. Yeah. Sure. I don't know what that means. This is such an awkward stream because I'm waiting for my PlayStation. I just want to play Demon Souls, but right now I'm like, I haven't got nothing to play. We got a lot of game suggestions just because I said that. Hey, doesn't mean I'm gonna play just because I don't know what to play. You should play a cool new title. There is no game. 69 donation, Chunky again. Thank you for saying happy birthday. You're kind of making fun. Oh, hell yeah. How have I been lately? Good. Been busy. Very busy. November's a busy month. The Mo actually suits me. Thanks. Appreciate it. How's my Japanese studies going? Slow down a bit. I was way more intense I guess like a month ago. But I'm still doing it. Thank you for putting a smile on my face, helping me through the darkest times. You are the best. Forgot how nice the donations are. I had them off for a while. Yeah, 30% does go to YouTube. But It's a culture around live streaming anyway. I don't know. I dare you to replay Getting Over It. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. No vid today. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a bit caught up. There's too much stuff going on. Thank you, Sarah. Need more cooking videos. All right. Have I finished Monogatari? I only watched Bakemonogatari. Thank you for asking. Cook off with Julian would be cool. Did Julian ever accept my challenge? Like, I watched his video, but I didn't see him challenging me back. What made you want to turn on the donations again? Well, it goes to charity. It's a thing. Why not? Give some extra. How is Marcia? I mean, she's well. Thank you for asking. I'm not going near getting over it. Any advice for people getting into Yukio Mishima? What would I advise? Just read it. It's great. Read the tetralogy. I want to reread Mishima. That was a comfy time, just plowing through all this literature. Could read some Mishima. I have a fresh copy. I sent all my books to Japan. They're all in Japan. My whole library. But I love this book so much, I bought another copy of it. It's weird with the Japanese author, because I love his writing style or his prose so much, but it's obviously translated. So what does that really say? You know? Can I say that I like an author's style of writing, even if it's translated? That would be a dream come true to read, or a big goal for me, I guess, to be able to read in Japanese. A whole novel. That'd be sick. Sick. Cringe. Okay. You should cook Pewdiepie next time. That's good. I have not had Pewdiepie in a long time. What is that called? What's the English equivalent of that? I have no idea. It's basically chopped. Like if you have an older meat in your fridge, or some leftover potatoes, you just chop it all up, add some onion, some spice, and you got Pewdiepie. I think that's how I remember it, at least. I haven't had that in 20 years, probably. That's... No, wait. 10 years. Sorry. Yeah, translations try to capture the essence of the author. Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Julian did challenge me back. I'm a fucking idiot, then. Hi, Black Casper. Your dream came true. There you go. What do you think of Ethan and Mark's Project Unknown's Honest? I only watched a couple of videos. I didn't really follow it, but I think it sounded like a really cool project. The tetralogy. I said it, Red Robin. Aren't you listening? What's your favorite Hololive girls? I have not kept up with that. I don't know anything about it. I missed your message. Thanks for getting me through tough bouts of anxiety. You mentioned writer's block in a previous video. What are you writing? I'm not writing. Lyrics. Writing lyrics. Laserbeam, just want to join the donuts. Bruh, is that Australian? Are you Australian? I didn't even know that. Get out of here with your cheap ass dollar. Thank you. Hey Pewdiepie, I had a dream that my girlfriend convinced you to play Minecraft with us live. It was gonna be huge for our channel, then woke up. I'm mad. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. What do you think is worse? Or what would you prefer? Waking up to a good dream that isn't true? Or a bad dream that isn't true? I guess I'd rather wake up to a good dream. Then you're living the reality. I mean, writing lyrics is still writing. Yes, I know. Thank you. I just misspoke. Thank you. Look good with a mustache. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for cheering me up for about 7 years now. Keep up the good work, fellas. Thank you, Cozy. Thanks for watching. Hell yeah. How are you? Is being famous YouTuber exhausting? That's a great question, Kelsey. I'm good. It's good as long as you don't leave your house. My dream is to become a music producer. Do you think I can do it? Yeah, why not? No. Got no chance. I know you read some of the Western philosophers, but have you read... Man, Eastern philosophers like Lao Tzu. Yes, I have. Or have I? What did he write? Tai Te Ching. Yes, we talked about this. Are you not listening? I read Sun Tzu, Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu, I guess. What else have I read? Some Buddhism, some Japanese philosophy as well that I don't remember the name of. It's interesting how they correlate in a lot of ways, but still so different. A lot of the base is similar to the Greeks. The biggest takeaway from Mishima is the metaphors. I just read Spring's Note. The translation conveys all this. I'm an author. Hey, look at that. I agree, there's a ton of great allegory and metaphor. Twilight watch party when? Hell yeah. If it wasn't such a copyright nightmare, I'd do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. Hey, shout out to Gothenburg. Park delay. How are the doggies? They're doing great. Maya has not had any stomach issue lately, which, knock on wood. Watching you from 8 years. From India. Thank you, Milin. From Mexico? Spending money just to ask about the puggies. I just answered. You could have waited 10 seconds. They're doing good. Thank you for asking. Your Polnareff and Iggy haunts my dreams. That fucking hair, man. I fucked it up. This month charity's for November, and then next one I haven't decided yet. I already donated in November. I mean, it was technically last month. I'm the greatest YouTuber ever. Damn. Thank you. There's so many YouTubers. I'll take it. Thank you. I got $1,000 dono and I missed it. Hold on. This is the problem. The donations. I can't keep up. No, I answered to it. Been watching since 2012. Has been nice to be able to witness your growth over the years. Thank you. I did today's video. Well, it'll be up tomorrow. I was literally just going through my Instagram and it was really fun seeing my whole journey. Have I listened to Thom Yorke and Björk's Duet? No, I haven't heard it, but I like both artists. So maybe I'll check that. Happy birthday, Meridia. Fuck, there's so many donations. I can't keep up. Stop it. Alright, enough. Charity has enough. I'm kidding. gonna work out, what would I recommend to you? Focus on one muscle group. I don't know. Depends how often you work out. My bag history, what? Oh, bad history. Yeah, that was a great video. Watching since 6th grade. Epic. Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, I'm still in No Nut. I might give up tomorrow, though. I think tomorrow's the day I'm giving up. All the perks are just not worth it. Thank you, Mobeck. Thank you, Willie. Jesse with the 100. Do you ever watch your old videos and cringe? I sure as hell do. You mean you watch my old videos and cringe? Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's normal. I'm beyond cringe at this point. It doesn't even matter. Happy birthday to Marvin from Alexandra. Yeah. All right, we better start doing something because these donations are going out of control. Bruh, I usually don't stream at this hour. There's not this many people. Fuck. Can't keep up. I'm still waiting for my PlayStation 5. Hasn't arrived yet. Can I talk about my struggles with socializing? How are you going to overcome that? Well, I have this 5-step plan, you see. I don't fucking know. Yes, it just comes natural for some people. It doesn't for me. Okay, what can I say? I tried so hard to overcome it. It clearly doesn't work. I've just given up and accepted it. Acceptance of personal struggle is comforting. At least no one else will use that against you. Oh god, it's weird how that works, isn't it? It's like if you're overweight and you don't like it, if you keep calling yourself fat, at least no one else will call you fat, or at least it won't hurt. Am I drain gang enough? I guess not. I'm so awkward. Haha, don't make fun of me. It's weird how that works in general. Hello from Russia. Hello back. I missed $100 dono. No, it's Swedish. Y'all need to learn about different currencies and shit. Back to school with ya. Oh wait, I did. My bad. Van Hoy. My brother's a Wii web developer, maybe you're trying to say. A Wii developer? My cousin's an MD in law school. Does it scare you that you have raised the next generation? Depends what you've learned from me. That's crazy. Good on you. Mr. Beast is gonna make Rewind this year? Oh, it's a challenge now, huh? He's challenging me. I see how it is. Well, I can't compete with Mr. Beast. Just had to say, I appreciate the videos, man. Been nice to have them to keep me entertained while being locked inside for 9 months. God damn, it's been that long. Thoughts on Oculus 2 Quest? It's great. It's such good hardware, but the software sucks, dude. I can't believe how bad it is. Like, they have this built-in voice chat thing, right? But as soon as you launch a game, it stops. And then you have to use the voice chat in the game. So it's like you're in a call with someone, you're trying to join a game with them. You think it would be intuitive or it would stay in the background. This is small stuff like that all the time with it. It's awful. I don't know why they're not getting more shit for it, because it's been a long time since the first one came out. But otherwise, it's amazing. It's super good. It's just frustrating when the hardware is so cool. But thank you for asking. Now I got to do that little rant that I kept inside. Don't want to answer that. Sorry. Thanks for donum. Oh yeah, Among Us VR. Never got a chance to do that. Does anyone give a fuck about Among Us VR at this point? I felt like last stream was the last one. I'm done. Sorry, guys. Are people still streaming it? Seriously? I guess if you have to stream all the time, what else are you gonna do? Right? Just sit and talk and to chat? Cringe. I only watched 3 episodes of Blood of Zeus. I've been busy lately. Had to skip it this morning, had an early meeting. Yes, my life is exciting. Yeah. Hello from Argentina, Pewds. Thanks for the laughing throughout the years. Thank you, Azul. I haven't played Spider-Man. It looks cool. I don't think it's my kind of game, though. I killed Among Us? No, I didn't. I make it fun. Alright? Happy birthday to Call Me Kevin. Happy birthday. Oh god. I can't do this. It's too much. It's too many. I can't keep up with it. I'm sorry, I can't. What do I do? I was thinking we just have a low-key stream. Maybe I'll do some reading. How do I do that when chat is so fucking wild? Suffering from success. Seriously. Okay. I'll give you guys 4 options. I've been wanting to do this. These are all the books I have. If you want to chat that's easier to read, there's a live stream chat in Discord with Slow Mo. Thank you. Alright. These are our options, okay? Yukio Mishima. This will take 4 hours, or 3 hours probably. We could do it in 3 settings maybe, okay? It's good. It's a little weird. A bit uncomfortable. It does have some strange elements that might not be safe for you guys who are younger. So I don't know if that's a good idea. I got this. I know my Finama Scream. It's a really good, very short horror story. But October's over, really. It's not on theme. I was planning to read it during October. How long is it? It's very short. I could probably finish that in 30 minutes? 40 minutes? How long is it? Spooky story. This is what I just started reading. Beyond Good and Evil. I don't think that's fits at all. And then I also have my old version of the Iliad, which I never read this version. That'll take long. I don't think that makes sense at all. Or I can look up something online. See, I don't want to sound pretentious, right? But what I want to read probably is too advanced for you guys. And I don't know what I can read that would make sense. I don't want to read something I don't want to read. Oh god, chat is going too fast. I can't even see. Of Peleus' son, Achilles, sing, accursed with countless pangs, and forward flung to Hades, of heroes, and their very self, and unto every foul. Too nervous to read out loud. It's uncomfortable. It's too many people. I wasn't gonna read it anyway. I was just checking. Music too loud. Turn it down a bit. All right, it makes sense to read a horror story. It's very simple. But if it's too graphic, I'll stop. I just don't remember how bad it is. Hey, if you're... What is the age for movies? If you're under 15, go ask your mom's permission right now. Okay? Or dad. Okay? Promise me? I don't want people complaining the kid got nightmares. Yes, I broke the spine of the book. It's a cheap copy. Don't worry about it. Okay, let's put on some spoopy music. Could be good to try. Should probably eat something. I feel my blood sugar's low. Just give me a moment. I have an original version of this book. They're quite rare. This is this. Oh. Don't judge my reading because I get nervous. I'll get into it eventually. I'll probably stutter. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Let me just get a drink. Be right back. You spooked out? Spooked out? It's too dark, probably. Maybe if I put up like a white window. Is that better? Creeping in the dark. Oh, Jack Screams shows up, yeah. Sorry, let me just have a quick snack. My fingers are wet. I can't open it. kawaii, Nate. See if I can lower. We just have a little bit. Still very dark. Okay, how's that? I have no mouth, and I must scream. Limp. The body of Gorster hung from the pink pallet, unsupported, hanging high above us in the computer chamber, and it did not shiver in the chill, oily breeze that blew eternally through the main cavern. The body hung head down, attached to the underside of the pallet by the sole of its right foot. It had been drained of blood through a precise incision made from ear to ear under the lantern jaw. There was no blood on the reflected surface of the metal floor. When Gorster joined our group and looked up at himself, it was already too late for us to realize that once again, Am had duped us. Had its fun, it had been a diversion on the part of the machine. 3 of us had vomited, turning away from one another in a reflex as ancient as the nausea that had produced it. Hold on, let me make sure. Gorster went white. It was almost as though he had seen a voodoo icon and was afraid of the future. Oh God, he mumbled and walked away. The 3 of us followed him after a time and found him sitting with his back to one of the smaller chittering banks, his head in his hands. Ellen knelt down beside him and stroked his hair. He didn't move, but his voice came out of his covered face quite clearly. Why doesn't he just do us in and get it over with? Christ, I don't know how much longer I can go on like this. It was our 109th year in the computer. He was speaking for all of us. Ooh. Nimdoc, which was the name of the machine, which was the name the machine had forced him to use because Am amused itself with strange sounds, was hallucinating that there were canned goods in the ice caverns. Gorster and I were very dubious. Oh. It's another shook, I told him. Like the goddamn frozen elephant Am sold us. What? Benny almost went out of his mind over that one. We'll hike all the way and it'll be putrefied or some damn thing. I say forget it. Stay here. It'll have to come up with something pretty soon or we'll die. Benny shrugged. 3 days it had been since we'd last eaten. Worms. Thick. Ropey. Nimdoc was no more certain. He knew that there was a chance, but he was getting thin. It couldn't be any worse there than here. Colder, but that didn't matter much. Hot, cold, hail, lava, bullets, or locusts. It never mattered. The machine masturbated and we had to take it or die. Ellen decided us. I've got to have something, Ted. Maybe there'll be some barlets, pears, or peaches. Please, Ted, let's try it. Do you like my female voice? I gave in easily. What the hell? Matter not at all. Ellen was grateful, though. She took me twice out of turn. Even that had ceased to matter. And she never came, so why bother? Sorry, kids, go to bed. But the machine giggled every time we did it. They kiss a little bit, that's what. Loud, up there, back there, all around us, he snickered. It snickered. Most of the time I thought of Am as it, without a soul, but the rest of the time I thought of it as him, in the masculine, the paternal, the patriarchal. For he is a jealous people, him, it. God as daddy the deranged. We left on a Thursday. The machine always kept us up to date on the date. The machine of time was important, not to us as sure as how, but to him, it, Am, Thursday. Thanks. Nimdoc and Gorston carried Ellen for a while. their hands locked to their own and each other's wrist, a C. Benny and I had walked before and after just to make sure that if anything happened, it would catch one of us and at least Ellen would be safe. Fat chance safe. Didn't matter. It was only 100 miles or so to the ice caverns. Only? And the second day, when we were lying out under the blistering sun thing, he had materialized. He would send down some mana. Some mana? Tasted like boiled boar urine. Delicious. We ate it. On the third day, we passed through a valley of obsolescence, filled with rustling carcasses of ancient computer banks. M had been as ruthless with its own life as with ours. It was a matter of its personality. It strove for perfection. Whether it was a matter of killing off unproductive elements of its own world, filling bulk, or perfecting methods for torturing us, M was as thorough as those who had invented him, now long since gone to dust, could ever have hoped. There was light filtering down from above, and we realized we must be very near the surface. But we didn't try to crawl up to see. There was virtually nothing out there. Had been nothing that could be considered anything for over 100 years. Only blasted skin of what had once been the home of billions. Now there were only 5 of us, down here, inside, alone with Anne. I heard Ellen saying frantically, "No, Benny. Don't. Come on. Benny, don't, please." And then I realized, this is a bad idea. And then I realized I'd been hearing Benny's murmuring under his breath for several minutes. He was saying, "I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna get out." Over and over. His monkey-like face was crumbled in an expression of beatific delight and sadness at the same time. The radiation scars Am had given him during the festival were drawn down into a mass pink-white puckerings, and his features seemed to work independently of one another. Perhaps Benny was the luckiest of the 5 of us. He had gone stark, staring mad many years before. But even though we could call Am any damn thing we liked, could think the foulest thought of fused memory banks and corroded base plates, of burnout circuits and shattered control bubbles, the machine would not tolerate our trying to escape. Benny leaped away from me as I made a grab for him. He scrambled up the face of a small memory cube, tilted on its side and filled with rotten components. He squatted there for a moment, looking like a chimpanzee Am had intended him to resemble. Then he leaped high, caught a trailing beam of pitted corroded metal, and went up it, hand over hand like an animal, till he was on a girded ledge. I don't know how to say that. 20 feet above us. "Oh, Ted. Nimduk, please help him. Get him down from there before..." She cut off. Sorry. Tears began to stand in her eyes. She moved her hands aimlessly. It was too late. None of us wanted to be near him when whatever was going to happen, happened. And besides, we all saw through her concern. When Am had altered Benny during the machine's utterly irrational, hysterical phase, it was not merely Benny's face the computer had made like a giant ape. Oh no. Okay. It was big in the privates. She loved that. Should I continue? What the fuck am I reading? I don't remember how sexual this was. She serviced us as a matter of course, but she loved it from him. Oh, Ellen, pedestal Ellen, pristine, pure Ellen. Oh, Ellen the clean, scum, filth. Gorisher slapped her. She slumped down, staring up at poor loony Benny, and she cried. It was her big defense, crying. She had gotten used to it 75 years before. 75 years? God damn. Gorisher kicked her in the side. Then the sound began. It was light, that sound. Half sound and half light. Something that began to glow from Benny's eyes and pulse with growing loudness. Dim sonorities that grew more gigantic and brighter as the light/sound increased in tempo. It must have been painful, and the pain must have been increasing with the boldness of the light, the rising volume of the sound. For Benny began to mew like a wounded animal. At first softly, when the light was dim and the sound was muted, then louder as his shoulders hunched together, his back humped, as though he was trying to get away from it. His hand folded across his chest like a chipmunk's, his head tilted to the side, the sad little monkey face pinched in anguish. When he began to howl as the sound coming from his eyes grew louder, louder and louder, I slapped the sides of my head with my hands, but I couldn't shut it out. It cut through easily. The pain shivered through my flesh like tinfoil on a tooth, and Benny was suddenly pulled erect. And the girder he stood up, jerked to his feet like a puppet. The light was now pulsing out of his eyes in two great round beams. The sound crawled up and up some incomprehensible scale, and then he fell forward, straight down, and hit the plate steel floor with a crash. He lay there jerking spastically as the light flowed around and around him, and the sound spiraled up out of normal range. Then the light beat its way back inside his head. The sound spiraled down, and he was left lying there, crying piteously. His eyes were two soft, moist pools of puss-like jelly. Ew. Am had blinded him. Gorister and Nimdok and myself, we turned away, but not before we caught the look of relief on Ellen's warm, concerned face. Sea green light suffused the cabin where we made camp. Am provided punk, and we burned it, sitting huddled around the van and pathetic fire, telling stories to keep Benny from crying in his permanent night. What does Am mean? Gorister answered him. We had done this sequence 1,000 times before, but it was Benny's favorite story. At first it meant Allied Master Computer, and then it meant Adaptive Manipulator, and later on it developed sentience and linked itself up, and they called it an aggressive menace. But by then it was too late, and finally it had called itself Am, emerging intelligence, and what it meant was I am, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Benny drooled a little and snickered. There was the Chinese Am, and the Russian Am, and the Yankee Am, and he stopped. Benny was beating on the floor plates with a large, hard fist. He was not happy. Gorister had not started at the beginning. Yeah, that's a good line, I agree. Gorister began again. The Cold War started and became World War III and just kept going. It became a big war, a very complex war, so they needed the computers to handle it. They sank the first shafts and began building Am. There was the Chinese Am, and the Russian Am, and the Yankee Am, and everything was fine until they had the honey combined the entire planet, adding on this element and that element. But one day, Am woke up and knew who he was, and he linked himself and began feeding all the killing data, until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of us, and Am brought us down here. Benny was smiling sadly. He was also drooling again. Ellen wiped the spittle from the corner of his mouth with the hem of her skirt. Gorister always tried to tell it a little more succinctly each time, but beyond the bare fact that there was nothing to say, none of us knew why Am had saved 5 people, or why our specific 5, or why he spent all his time tormenting us, nor even why he had made us virtually immortal. In the darkness, one of the computer banks began humming. The tone was picked up half a mile away down the cavern by another bank. Then one by one, each of the elements began to tune itself, and there was a faint chittering, as though raced through the machine. The sound grew, and the lights ran across the faces of the consoles like heat lightning. The sound spiraled up till it sounded like a million metallic insects, angry, menacing. Oh, oh, oh. What is it? Ellen cried. There was terror in her voice. She hadn't become accustomed to it, even now. It's going to be bad this time, Nimdok said. He's going to speak, Gorister said. I know it. Let's get the hell out of here, I said suddenly, getting to my feet. No, Ted, sit down. What if he's got pits out there, or something else? We can't see. It's too dark. Gorister said it with resignation. Then we heard, I don't know, something moving towards us in the darkness. Huge, shambling, hairy, moist. it came towards us. We couldn't even see it, but there was the ponderous impression of bulk heaving itself towards us. Great weight was coming at us out of the darkness, and it was more a sense of pressure, of air forcing itself into a limited space, expanding the invisible walls of a sphere. Benny began to whimper. Nimdok's lower lip trembled, and he bit it hard, trying to stop it. Ellen slid across the metal floor to Gorister and huddled into him. There was the smell of matted, wet fur in the cavern. There was a smell of charred wood. There was a smell of dusty velvet. There was a smell of rotten orchids. There was a smell of sour milk. There was a smell of sulfur, of rancid butter, of oil slick, of grease, of chalk dust, of human scalps. Am was keying us. He was tickling us. There was a smell of... I heard myself shriek, and the hinges of my jaws ached. I scuttled across the floor, across the metal with its endless lines of rivet on my hands and knees, the smell gagging me, filling my head with a thunderous pain that sent me away in horror. I fled like a cockroach across the floor and out into the darkness, that something moving inexorably after me. The others were still back there, gathered around the firelight, laughing, their hysterical choir of insane giggles rising up into the darkness like thick, many-colored wood smoke. I went away, quickly, and hid. How many hours it may have been, how many days, or even years, they never told me. Ellen chided me for sulking, and Nimdok tried to persuade me it had only been a nervous reflex on their part, the laughing. But I knew it wasn't the relief a soldier feels when the bullet hits the man next to him. I knew it wasn't a reflex. They hated me. They were surely against me, and Am couldn't even sense his hatred, and made it worse for me because of the depth of their hatred. We had been kept alive, rejuvenated, and made to remain constantly at the age we had been when Am had brought us below, and they hated me because I was the youngest, and the one Am had affected least of all. How we doing? It picks up. It's short. Don't worry, guys. It's very descriptive. Yeah, I can really see all the scenes. I knew. God, how I knew. The bastards and that dirty bitch Ellen. Benny had been a brilliant theorist, a college professor. Now he was little more than a semi-human, semi-simian. He had been handsome. The machine had ruined that. He had been lucid. The machine had driven him mad. He had been gay, and the machine had given him an organ to fit a horse. Am had done a job on Benny. Gorister had been a worrier. He was a Connie, a conscientious objector. He was a peace marcher. He was a planner, a doer, a looker ahead. Am had turned him into a shoulder shrugger, and made him into a little dead in his concern. Am had robbed him. Nimdok went off in the darkness by himself for long times. I don't know what it was he did out there. Am never let us know. But whatever it was, Nimdok always came back white, drained of blood, shaking. Ugh. Am had hit him hard in a special way, even if we didn't know quite how. I like how he doesn't say what happened to them. And Ellen, that douchebag, Am had left her alone, had made her more of a slut than she had ever been. Jesus. All her talk of sweetness and light, all her memories of true love, all the lies she wanted us to believe, that she had been a virgin only twice, removed before Am grabbed her and brought her down here with us. It was all filth. That lady, my Lady Ellen, she loved it. 4 men all to herself. No, Am had given her pleasure, even if she said it wasn't nice to do. I was the only one still sane and whole, really. Am had not tampered with my mind, not at all. I only had to suffer what he visited down on us. All the delusions, all the nightmares, the torments, those scum, all 4 of them. They were lined and arrayed against me. If I wasn't, if I hadn't had to stand the, sorry, if I hadn't had to stand them off all the time, be on my guard against them all the time, I might have found it easier to combat Anne. At which point it passed and I began crying. Oh, Jesus, sweet Jesus. If there ever was a Jesus, and if there ever was a God, please, please, please let us out of here or kill us. Because of that moment, I think I realized completely, so that I was able to verbalize it. Am was intending on keeping us in his belly forever, twisting and torturing us here forever. The machine hated us, as no sentient creature had ever hated before, and we were helpless. It also became hideously clear. If there was a sweet Jesus, and if there was a God, the God was Anne. The hurricane hit us with the force of a glacier thundering into the sea. It was a palpable presence, winds that tore at us, flinging us back the way we had come, down the twisting computer-lined corridors of the dark way. Ellen screamed as she was lifted and hurled face forward into a screaming shoal of machines. Sorry. Their individual voices strident as bats in flight. She could not even fall. The howling wind kept her aloft, buffeted her, bounced her, tossed her back and down and away from us, out of sight, suddenly as she was swirled around a bend in the dark way. Her face had been bloody, her eyes closed. None of us could get to her. She clung tenuously to whatever outcropping we had reached. Benny wedged in between two great crackle-finished cabinets. Nimdok with finger claw formed over a railing, circling a catwalk 40 feet above us. Gorster plastered upside down against a wall niche formed by two great machines with glass-faced dials that swung back and forth between red and yellow lines whose meanings we could not even fathom. Sliding across the deck plates, the tips of my finger had been ripped away. Yuck! I was trembling, shuddering, rocking as the wind beat at me, whipped at me, screamed down out of nowhere at me, and pulled me free from one sliver-thin opening in the plates to the next. My mind was a roiling, tinkering, chittering softness of brain parts that expanded and contracted in quivering frenzy. The wind was the scream of a great mad bird as it flapped its immense wings. And then we were all lifted and hurled away from there, down back the way we had come, around a bend, into a dark way we had never explored, over terrain that was ruined and filled with broken glass and rotten cables and rusted metal, and far away further than any of us have ever been. Trailing along miles behind Ellen, I could see her every now and then, crashing into metal walls and surging on, with all of us screaming in the freezing, thunderous hurricane wind that would never end, and then suddenly it stopped, and we fell. Okay. Summary so far. There's Gorster, Ellen, Nimdok, and Benny. They've all been manipulated by some sort of computer, and they're stuck inside his realm. And he uses them as torturing tools. I assume for his entertainment. One of them had a vision of something in the ice caves, and that's where they're trying to go. They have visions that there was food there. But the computer plays tricks on them. Is that fair so far? In case you're watching now, I don't know. Then suddenly it stopped and we fell. We had been in flight for an endless time. I thought it might have been weeks. We fell and hit, and went through red and gray and black and heard myself moaning. Not dead. Am went into my mind. He walked smoothly here and there and looked with interest at all the pockmarks he had created in 109 years. He looked at the cross-routed and reconnected synapses and all the tissue damage his gift of immortality had included. He smiled softly at the pit that dropped into the center of my brain and the faint moth-softing murmurings of the things far down there that gibbered without meaning, without pause. Am said, very politely, in a pillar of stainless steel bearing bright neon lettering, "Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1 billion of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant for you. Hate. Hate." Am said it with a sliding cold horror of a razor blade slicing my eyeball. Am said it with the bubbling thickness of my lungs filling with phlegm, drowning me from within. Am said it with a shriek of babies being ground beneath blue hot rollers. Am said it with the taste of maggoty pork. Am touched me in every way I had ever been touched, and devised new ways at his leisure there inside my mind. All to bring me to full realization of why I had done this to the five of us, why it had saved us for himself. We had given Am sentience, inadvertently, of course, but sentience nonetheless. But it had been trapped. Am wasn't God. He was a machine. We had created him to think, but there was nothing it could do with that creativity. Starting to make sense now. In rage, in frenzy, the machine had killed the human race, almost all of us, and still it was trapped. Am could not wander. Am could not wander. Am could not wander. Am could not belong. He could merely be, and so, with the innate loathing with all the machines had always held for the weak, soft creatures who had built them, he had sought revenge. And in his paranoia, he had decided to reprieve five of us for revenge. And in his paranoia, it repeats itself a lot, so I keep thinking I misread it. And in his paranoia, he had decided to reprieve five of us for a personal and everlasting... No, I did read it twice. Everlasting punishment that could never serve to diminish his hatred. Did the music stop? This is a little lower. That would merely keep him reminded, amused, proficient at hating man. Immortal, trapped, subject to any torment he could devise for us from the limitless miracles of at his command. He would never let us go. We were his belly slaves. We were all he had to do with his forever time. Did you knock on the door? Spoopy. Where was I? Forever time. We would be forever with him, with the cavern-filling bulk of the creature machine, with the all-mind, soulless world he had become. He was earth, and we were the fruit of that earth. And though he had eaten us, he would never digest us. We could not die. We had tried it. We had attempted suicide. One or two of us had. But Am had stopped us. I suppose we had wanted to be stopped. Don't ask why. I never did. More than 1,000,000 times a day, perhaps. Once we might be able to sneak a death past him. More than 1,000,000 times a day. Perhaps once we might be... Oh, I see. Immortal, yes, but not indestructible. I saw that when Am withdrew from my mind and allowed me the exquisite ugliness. Sorry, I keep reading wrong a lot. I'm not good at reading out loud. Sorry, I read it. I saw that when Am withdrew from my mind and allowed me the exquisite ugliness of returning to consciousness with the feeling of that burning neon pillar still rammed deep into the soft gray brain matter. He withdrew, murmuring, "To hell with you," and added brightly, "But then you're there, aren't you?" The hurricane had indeed precisely been caused by a great mad bird as it had flapped its immense wings. We had been traveling for close to a month, and Am had allowed passages to open to us, only sufficient to lead us up there, directly under the North Pole, where it had nightmared the creature for our torment. Oh, I see. What whole cloth had he employed to create such a beast? Where had he gotten the concept? From our minds? From his knowledge of everything that had ever been on this planet, he now infested and ruled? From Norse mythology, it had sprung. This eagle, this carrion bird, this rock, this Hjörgelmir, the wind creature, hurricane incarnate, gigantic. I don't remember this. The words immense, monstrous, grotesque, massive, swollen, overpowering, beyond description. Is that a thing in Norse mythology, a giant bird? There, on a mound rising above us, the bird of winds heaved with its own irregular breathing, its snake neck arching up into the gloom beneath the North Pole, supporting a head as large as a Tudor mansion, a beak that opened slowly as the jaws of the most monstrous crocodile ever conceived. Sensuously, ridges of tuffled flesh puckered about two evil eyes, as cold as the view down into a glacial crevice. Ice blue and somehow moving liquidly. It heaved once more and lifted its great sweet-colored wings, in a movement that was certainly a shrug. Then it settled and slept. Talons, fangs, nails, blades. It slept. Am appeared to us as a burning bush and said we could kill the hurricane bird if we wanted to eat. We had not eaten in a very long time, but even so, Gorrister merely shrugged. Benny began to shiver and he drooled. Ellen held him. Ted, I'm hungry, she said. I smiled at her. I was trying to be reassuring, but it was as phony as Nimdok's bravado. Give us weapons, he demanded. The burning bush vanished, and there were 2 crude sets of bows and arrows, and a water pistol lying on the cold deck plates. I picked up a set. Useless. Are they gonna kill the bird? Nimdok swallowed heavily. We turned and started the long way back. The hurricane bird had blown us about for a length of time we could not conceive. Most of the time we had been unconscious, but we had not eaten. A month on the march to the bird itself, without food. Now how much longer to find our way to the ice caverns and the promised canned goods? Alright, they got a choice. Bird or canned goods? None of us cared to think about it. We would not die. We could be given filth and scum to eat, of one kind or another, or nothing at all, and would keep our bodies alive somehow, in pain and agony. The bird slept back there. For how long it didn't matter. When Anne was tired of its being there, it would vanish. But all that meat, all that tender meat. As we walked, the lunatic laugh of a fat woman rang high and around us in the computer chambers that led endlessly nowhere. It was not Ellen's laugh. She was not fat, and I had not heard her laugh for 109 years. Well, he did say they were all laughing at him, right? That's a bit cringe. In fact, I had not heard. We walked. I was hungry. We moved slowly. There was often feigning, and we would have to wait. One day he decided to cause an earthquake, at the same time rooting us to the spot with nails through the soles of our shoes. Ellen and Nimdok were caught when a fissure shot its lightning bolt opening across the floor plates. They disappeared and were gone. When the earthquake was over, we continued on our way. Benny, Gorrister, and myself. Ellen and Nimdok were returned to us later that night, which abruptly became a day, as the Heavenly Legion bore them to us with a celestial chorus singing, "Go down, Moses." Never heard that. The archangel circled several times and then dropped the hideous mangled bodies. We kept walking, and a while later, Ellen and Nimdok fell in behind us. They were no worse for wear. But now, Ellen walked with a limp. Am had left her then. It was a long trip to the ice caverns to find the canned food. Ellen kept talking about Bing cherries and a Hawaiian fruit cocktail. I try not to think about it. The hunger was something that had come to life, even as Am had come to life. It was alive in my belly, even as we were in the belly of the earth, and Am wanted the similarity known to us. So he heightened the hunger. There was no way to describe the pains that not having eaten for a month brought us, and yet we were kept alive. Stomachs that were merely cauldrons of acid, bubbling, foaming, always shooting spear of sliver-thin pain into our chests. It was the pain of the terminal ulcer, terminal cancer, terminal paresis. It was unending pain. And we passed through the cavern of rats. And we passed through the cavern of boiling steam. And we passed through the country of the blind. And we passed through the slough of despond. And we passed through the vale of tears. And we came, finally, to the ice caverns. Horizonless, thousands of miles in which the ice had formed in blue and sliver flashes, where Noahs lived in the glass. The down-dropping stalactites, as thick and glorious as diamonds that had been made to run like jelly, and then solidified in graceful eternities of smooth, sharp perfection. We saw the stack of canned goods, and we tried to run to them. We fell in the snow, and we got up and went on. Benny shoved us away and went at them. This is where it gets intense. And pawed them and gummed them and gnawed at them, and he could not open them. Am had not given us a tool to open the cans. Benny grabbed a 3-quart can of guava shells and began to batter it against the ice bank. The ice flew and shattered, but the can were merely dented while we heard the laughter of a fat lady, high overhead, echoing down and down and down the tundra. Benny went completely mad with rage. He began throwing cans as we all scrabbled about in the snow and ice trying to find a way, snow and ice and trying to find our way to end the helpless agony of frustration. There was no way. Then Benny's mouth began to drool, and he flung himself onto Garrister. In that instant, I felt terribly calm. Surrounded by madness, surrounded by hunger, surrounded by everything but death. I knew death was our only way out. Am had kept us alive, but there was a way to defeat him. Not total defeat, but at least peace. I would settle for that. I had to do it quickly. Benny was eating Gorister's face. Gorister's on his side, thrashing snow. Benny wrapped around him with powerful monkey legs, crushing Gorister's waist. His hands locked around Gorister's head like a nutcracker, and his mouth ripping at the tender skin of Gorister's cheek. Gorister screamed with such jagged-edged violence that I can't even read that. Fell. I guess the ice ball. Okay, they plunged down softly, erect in the receiving snowdrifts. Spears, hundreds of them, everywhere, protruding from the snow. Do you understand? Like the stalagmite? Okay. Just want to make sure. Benny's head pulled back sharply as something gave at once, and a bleeding, raw, white dripping of flesh hung from his teeth. Ellen's face, black against the white snow, dominoes in chalk dust. Nimdok with no expression but eyes, all eyes. Gorister half conscious, Benny now an animal. I knew Am would let him play. Gorister would not die, but Benny would fill his stomach. I turned half to my right and drew a huge ice spear from the snow. All in an instant, I drove the great ice point ahead of me like a battering ram, braced against my right thigh. It struck Benny in the right side just under the rib cage and drove upward through his stomach and broke inside him. He pitched forward and lay still. Gorister lay on his back. I pulled another spear free and throttled him, still moving, driving the spear straight down through his throat. His eyes closed as the cold penetrated. Ellen must have realized what I had decided, even as fear gripped her. She ran at Nimdok with a short icicle as he screamed, and into his mouth, and the force of her rush did the job. His head jerked sharply as if it had been nailed to the snow crust behind him, all in an instant. There was an eternity beat of soundless anticipation. I could hear Am draw his breath. His toys had been taken from him. 3 of them were dead, could not be revived. He could keep us alive, but by his strength and talent, but he was not God. He could not bring them back. Ellen looked at me, her ebony features stark against the snow that surrounded us. There was fear and pleading in her manner, the way she held herself already. I knew we had only a heartbeat before Am would stop us. It struck her, and she folded toward me, bleeding from the mouth. It could not read meaning into her expression. I could not read meaning into her expression. The pain had been too great. I had contorted her face, but it might have been, "Thank you. It's possible. Please." Some hundreds of years have passed. I don't know. Am has been having fun for some time, accelerating and retarding my time sense. I will say the word now. Now. It took me 10 months to say now. I don't know. I think it has been some hundreds of years. He was furious. He wouldn't let me bury them. It didn't matter. There was no way to dig up the deck plates. He dried up the snow. He brought the night. He roared and sent locusts. It didn't do a thing. They stayed dead. I had him. He was furious. I had thought Am hated me before. I was wrong. It was not even a shadow of the hate he now slavered from every printed circus. He made certain I would suffer eternally and could not do myself in. He left my mind intact. I can dream. I can wonder. I can lament. I can remember all 4 of them. I wish. Well, it doesn't make any sense. I know I saved them. I know I saved them from what has happened to me, but still, I cannot forget killing them. Ellen's face. It isn't easy. Sometimes I want to. It doesn't matter. Am has altered me for his own peace of mind, I suppose. He doesn't want me to run at full speed into a computer bank and smash my skull, or hold my breath till I faint, or cut my throat on a rusted sheet of metal. There are reflected surfaces down here. I will describe myself as I see myself. I am a great, soft jelly thing, smoothly rounded, with no mouth, with pulsing white holes filled by fog where my eyes used to be. Rubbery appendages that were once my arms, bulk rounding down into legless humps of soft, slippery matter. I leave a moist trail when I move. Blotches of diseased, evil gray come and go on my surface, as though light is being beamed from within. Outwardly, dumbly, I shamble about. A thing that could never have been known as human. A thing whose shape is so alien, a travesty that humanity becomes more obsolete for the vague resemblance. Inwardly, alone, here, living, under the land, under the sea, in the belly of Am, whom we created because our time was badly spent, and we must have known unconsciously that he could do it better. At least the 4 of them are safe at last. Am will be all the matter for that. It makes me a little happier. And yet, Am has won. Simply, he has taken his revenge. I have no mouth, and I must scream. There we go. Awful. Awful story. Truly horrific. Ugh, it makes me sick. How do you like that? You like the story? It's one of my favorite horror stories. There's another good one in here. think it's the one about the circus. Thanks for joining. That was fun. It's short, but it's good. It's a lot more sexual than I remember, yeah. Big Sam was my friend. Yeah, that was good too. Longest time. Take a quick break. I enjoyed that. I'm glad. It's good. It's a great story. So apparently he wrote it in one evening or one night. It's pretty good. I'll give him that. Oh yeah, there's a game. There's a game called I Have No Muffin on my screen. I never played it. Why didn't they just kill the bird? I love the moment when they all just realize and nothing needs to be said. Something needs to be done, and it has to happen quickly. There's no time for words even. Published in 1967. I didn't know that. I feel like there was still some way to open the cans. I mean, it was his trick. He had planned it all along. Guess you get to suffer for eternally, just like I am. He became a mush. Big Sam was my friend. Should I read that as well? It's very dark, though. But I remember it was okay, at least. I'm kind of curious. It's only 13 pages. All right. Let's do it. One more. Yeah. Read another one. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I guess some people joined from the middle. Well, if you join now's the perfect time. All right, let's put on spoopy music. Okay. I think this one has themes on suicide. The other one had two, to be fair. Just letting you guys know. Okay. Big Sam was my friend, is the title. I guess working for a teeper circus ain't the quietest work in the galaxy. But what the dickens? What the dickens? It's more than just a buck. And you see a lot of settled worlds. And there's always enough quillet around to keep a guy happy. Quillet? The fuck does that mean? So why should I kick? By that I mean, so what if they did lynch my friend, Big Sam, out on the Gulu the second? So what? You can always find another friend someplace around. But every time I start thinking that way, I kick myself mentally and say, Johnny Lee, you gotta stop passing Sam off like that. He was a good friend. He was a sick man, and he couldn't help what he did. But that's no call to be passing him off so quick. There's a lot to take in there. What the fuck? So some sci-fi future circus, and something happened to... What's his name? Big Sam. Alright. Then I'd start to remember the first time I'd ever seen Big Sam. That was outside Shreveport. Not the old Shreveport, but the one on Burris, with the green sand hills just beyond in the dusk. We were featuring Dolly Blaze that time. She was a second stage pyrotic with a cute little trick of setting herself on fire. And and what with her figure, what it was. Well, it wasn't much of a trick, even for a drum banger like me, to kick up some pretty hot publicity about the circus. It was a second show, and we packed the tent full, which wasn't odd, because 200 burritos, okay, each as big as an elephant, and looking a little bit like elephants for those host proboscises. I don't know how to say that. Crammed our pneumonet till... What are these words? Till there was hardly room for the hawkers to mill through when I spotted him. It wasn't so strange to spot a homebody from Earth on a ridge world. What with the way we Earthmen move around, but there was something odd about this homeboy. Aside from the fact that he was close to 7 feet tall. Giga Chad. It wasn't long till I spotted him as a teeper of some sort. At first, I figured him for a clairvoyant, but I could tell from the way he watched the acrobats. They were a pair of Hungarian floaters called the Spindotties, and the only way they could have fallen was to lose their T-powers of anti-grav altogether. The way he tensed up when they were making a catch, that he couldn't read the future. Then I figured him for an empath, and that would have been useless for the circus, except in an administrative capacity, of course. This is very confusing. Hey, we got Hungarians. To tell us when one of the performers was sick, or unhappy, or a bad crowd, or like that. But right then, credits were tight, and we couldn't afford an empath, so I counted him off. But as I watched him sitting there in the stands, between two big as houses Burites, sucking up pink lemonade from squeeze bulbs, I discounted the empath angle too. I didn't realize he was a teleport till Fritz Bravery came on with his animal pack. In our circus, we clear both side things for the central circle when a speciality act goes on. Then the fluoro bands are jockeyed into position over the center ring, and the mini tapes set their reaction music for all bands. That way we draw attention to the big act only. Fritz Bravery was an old timer. He had been a lion tamer in a German circus back home, before teeping was understood and the various type outlined. That was when Fritz had found out the reason he was so good with animals was that he was what the French had labeled animal voyeur, which in English, the way we accept it now, means he and the beast think alike. And he suggests to them and alike they just go through hoops. If he thinks, jump through a hoop. But Fritz was also one of those hearkeners after the old days. He thought showbiz was dead. Nothing but commercial and plebeian crap left. You know, one of those. He had lost his wife, Gert, somewhere between Madison Square Plaza and Burris, and eventually the old joy juice had grabbed him. That night, That night, old Fritz Braverly was juiced to the ears. You could spot it in the moment he had got into the ring with the beast. He was using 3 big Nubian lions and a puma, and a dree and a sligor those days, plus 1 mean bitch of a black panther called Felice. Felice? Somewhat. The likes of which were downright cussedness I'd never seen. Old Fritz got with them, and he was shaken from the start. King Groth, who ran the show, looked at me, and I looked at him, and we both thought, I hope to God Fritz can handle them tonight with his senses all fogged up like that. But we didn't do anything, because Fritz always had his escape plate ready to lift him over the heads. If he got into trouble, and besides, it was his act, we had no right to cramp it before he'd shown his stuff. But King murmured in my ear, better start looking around for a new cat man, Johnny. Fritz won't be good for much longer. I nodded, and felt sort of sad, because Fritz was as good a cat man as he'd ever had with the circus. Sorry, I get so annoyed when I read wrong. It's not as scary. No, it's more darker, this one. The old man went around them. It's a strange scenery. It's an interesting, but like a space circus. The old man went around them, walking backward with his electro whip, snapping and sparkling sweetly, and for a while, everything was fine. He even had the lions and the puma up in his tricky pyramid, with the Black Panther about to leap up the banks of the 5 lions, to take her place at the apex of the pyramid. He pulled off that number pretty well, though one of the lions stumbled as the pyramid was breaking up, and growled at him. We had grown to know the difference between a show growl, commanded mentally by Fritz for a fright effect in the act, and a real one. A real one free of Fritz control. This was the last one, sorry. So we knew old Fritz was losing control. We grew more alert as he herded the lions and the puma into the corner of the force cage in which he had performed his act. It was transparent around the 4 walls, but there nonetheless. Then Fritz, ignoring Felice, who followed the other Earth beast, went to work on the Dree. He got her to rotate on all 16. What? And hump and then turn inside out, which is a pretty spectacular thing, considering a Dree's technicolor innards. Okay. Then he got it to lift him on the one appendage and place him gently on another, all the way up the length of her body, from appendage to appendage. Then he worked for a while with a sligor. It was poisonous, so he donned gloves and used a sonic whistle on it alone. Since electricity did not affect it in any way, even his work with the sligor was fair that night, and for a while we thought he would make it fine. I kept tossing this 7-foot homebody in the stands a look from time to time, trying to decide what sort of teep he was. But he was just watching the act and smiling, not doing a thing. Then Fritz went to work on Felice. She had been inverse-shipped. There's a game based on this book? Not this one. This is a different story. She had been inverse-shipped from Earth not more than 3 weeks before, and the trip through inverse space, coupled with her natural instinctive nastiness, and more than likely allied with some temperament quirk aggravated by the warping of the ship and its occupants throughout inverse space, had left her a jangled-nerved, heaped-up body of hate and fury. We had had several close calls with her nipping her feeder robots, and I for once didn't like to see old Fritz in there with her. But he was determined to break her. Showmanship and all that bourgeois. So we let him go ahead. After all, he did have the escape plate there, which whisks him anti-gravitationally over the heads of the animals, should there be trouble. He picked up the electro whip and moved it on Felice. She sat crouched back on her haunches, waiting him out. He stopped the foot from her, so close he could have stroked her sleek black fur. Then he did a double movement crack with electro whip and caught her on the on the snout with a spark. Felice leaped. At that precise instant, the most remarkable thing I have ever gloomed in all my days as flack for a top happened. I love these expressions. I've never yet been able to figure it out, whether the beasts were actually in mental contact with one another, or if it was just chance. But the puma got to its feet, and softly padded over to the escape plate, and sat down on it. The lions moved out, and positioned themselves around the force cage. Fritz was hemmed in completely. Then Felice began stalking him. It was the most fascinating and horrifying thing I have ever seen. He's fucked! To witness that big cat playing footsie with old Fritz. The tamer tried to control her, but even from where we were in the stands, we could see the sweat on his face, and the dark lines etched against the white of his face. He was scared. He had lost control of them completely. He knew he was dead. Felice's eyes were two barbs, ready to impale poor old Fritz, and we were so stunned. It all happened so quickly. We just sat there, and so help me God, we just watched. I felt like a Roman in the arena. Felice crouched again, and the muscles in her back shoulders hunched and bunched and tensed, and she sprang full on old Fritz. He fell down, and her crushing weight landed on top of him, and her jaws opened wide, with yellow fangs straining yelpingly for Fritz, Bravery's neck. Her head came up and back, and her throat was stretched tight so the pulse of blood vein could be seen. And then the head came down like a blade of a guillotine. But Fritz wasn't there. He was sitting up in the stands with the 7-foot homebody. That was when I knew. Hell, anybody be able to tell by then. He was a teleport. The best kind. An outgoing teleport. He had teeped Fritz out of the jaws of the Black Panther. I looked at King Roth, who was looking from Felice to Fritz and back, not knowing I had already tagged the homebody as a teeper, and there was and there was amazement on his face. "We got us a new star act, King," I said, slipping out of my seat. I cocked a thumb at Fritz, who was talking bewilderedly to the 7-foot homebody. I started threading my way between the elephant big Burites towards Fritz and his savior. Behind me, I heard King Roth saying, "Go get, I'm bought." I got him. Okay. Not very spoopy, but interesting. So we have this space circus where a man was performing some sort of mental act with an animal, a puma and a lion. They had an escape plan, but it got fucked. And some guy from the audience, right? Did I get that right? Came and teeped him, teleported in. It's very weird. Behind me? Ah, good one. Now I won't bother going to the year Big Sam spent with the circus. It was pretty routine. We covered the Stardust route from Burris to Lilia A, to Crown Colony, to Peck's Orchard, to Molten X, 11I11. They have a treaty there with the natives, so long as they use both homebody and native name for the planet. The Ring-a-Ling and the... what are these names? And right along the ridge to the new cluster worlds of Donza, Lolak, Minthornwire, Ulais II. That was where we lost Big Sam. There, on July 2nd, where they lynched him. But to understand what happened, why it happened, I better tell you about Big Sam. Not just that he was nearly 7 feet tall, with a long, horsey face and high cheekbones and dark, sad blue eyes, but about him, what he was like. And this is the best way to tell it. Sam's act consisted of several parts. For instance, at the beginning we turned off all the fluorobands. Then 3 rustabouts clanked out carrying this big pole in their metal arms. They would kick off the cover plate of the hole we had sunk in the floor of the arena or tent, and insert the pole in it, then clamp it so it was rigid. Then one of the rustabots would switch on the torch finger of his utility hat and set fire to the pole. We had already doused it in oil, and the thing caught fire up its length, till there was a pillar of fire in the middle of the ring. There was a it was a specially treated pole, and it didn't really burn, but the fire on it was real enough, so we used the same pole over and over. Then the ringmaster would swoop in his place, and his sonic voice would boom out in the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I draw your attention to the center of the center ring, where the galaxy's most mystifying, most extraordinary artists will perform for you. I am proud to present the unbelievable Ugo! That was Sam. Then the one spot would go on, like the eye of a god, and pick out Sam, striding across the plastidust. Sawdust went out with the high cost of inver shipping. He would be wearing skin-tight black clothing that accentuated his slim build, and high-top black boots. Oh, sorry, there's a weird cut here. Very soft with 2-inch soles to make him seem even taller, and a black cape with a crimson lining. Hell of a look, let me tell you. He would advance to the center of the ring, just beside the burning pole, and raise his arms. A girl wearing spangles and not much else. That was Beatrice, whom I had been dating when she wasn't on her iron-filling kick. But that's another story, fortunately. The fuck is this? Such a strange setting, by the way. But that's another story, fortunately. Would run out, take his long cape, and Ugo, that's Sam, would turn and look... I'm not talking to Google. Would turn and look at the pole for a long minute. Shut up! Ugo. Then he would take a running leap, hit the pole, and start to shinny up. Everyone would shriek, but he was being burned to death. He was being burned to death. Then he was gone. And a second later, he was at the top of the pole, on the little platform above the flames. Everyone was astonished. For some reason, they never realized he was a teleport. I guess there aren't many teleports around, and most people don't see them as flagrantly displaying their talents as Big Sam did. It's a regressive trait. For a moment, he would poise himself there on toe tip, as the audio skirled their danger music on all bands. And then, as the drums rolled, Sam would do a neat swan dive off the platform. The shrieking would get even bigger then. He would turn a gainer, a flip, a half gainer, and then, just as it seemed he was about to smash full force into the ground, he disappeared, and reappeared standing lightly on the balls of his feet. Balls? Sorry. In the same position he had been when he started, his arms widespread over his head, and an enigmatic grin splitting his craggy features. That was the first part of his act. The applause was always deafening, and we never had to modify it by taped responses either. Isn't that beyond belief? To see an almost certain horrible death, you know how crowds all sit on their edge of their seat, praying subconsciously for a spectacular accident, and then to be whisked away from it so suddenly, brought to the edge of tragedy, and then to have their better natures win out, throwing them how much nicer they always knew they were. That was a supreme thrill. Sorry, throwing them how much nicer they always knew they were. That was a supreme thrill. But it was merely a beginning. Then Ugo Sam did juggling, magnificent high-flown juggling with hundreds of knives and fireballs, and even 1,000-pound weights, moving them all by teleportation. He then wrestled with the bear, slipping out the most fearsome grips as easily as greased fish. Then came the tennis match he played with himself. He beat himself in straight sets. His act was sensational. For on many of the outer ridge worlds, they had little or no truck with teleports. By the service system for Teeps, each of the categories had to send representative members to the ridge world to serve tours, to spread homebody technology and advantages around. There was so few teleports, they had been rarely seen. So Big Sam was a novelty, and as such, he dragged the credits for us. I played him big. But there was more to Sam than just the tricks. We used to sit alone at night under a saffron sky, or a mauve sky, or an ebony sky, and talk. I liked talking to him, because he wasn't dumb, like most of the washed up and used up carny creeps we had with us. He had been an educated man, that was obvious, and there was a deep, infinite sadness about him that sometimes made me want to cry, just talking to him there. I remember the night I found out how sick Big Sam really was. That was on Roar Spokane. A little plug of the world by all rights we should have avoided, but a combination of low money for paychecks, repair work for the ships, and general all-around lethargy had set us down on that whistle-stop for a 3-week set. Mostly we just pottered around and killed time resting up till the big 6-month tour on Giulio II. That night, Big Sam and I lay back with our heads on grassy mounds, staring up at the night that was deep blue with stars, ticking away eternity over us. I looked over the rough typography on his face and asked him, did I read that right? Typography. Sam was that hell... Sam. Sorry, he's... I got lost here. Okay, I looked over the rough typography of his face and asked him, Sam, what the hell is a guy like you doing out on the fly like this? His face tightened all over. It was so odd, the way he looked. So tight. My question had sucked all the life from him. I'm looking for a dead girl, Johnny Lee. He always pronounced my name as though it were one word only. His answer didn't sink in for a second. I didn't want to push, but I felt somehow this was the first opening he had ever given me. Oh, how did that happen? She died a long time ago, Johnny. A long time ago. His eyes closed. He no longer saw the stars. She was just a girl, Johnny. Just another girl. And I guess I was more in love with the idea of love than with her. I didn't say a word. For a long time, neither did he. Then, when I was starting to fall asleep, I thought he had already had... And though he already had, he went on. Her name was Claire. Nothing very pretentious about her. So simple and clean. I wanted very much to marry her. I don't know why. We were nothing alike. Then one day we were walking, and I don't know what it was. Just something, you know? And I teleported away from her, half a block away. I didn't know then quite what I could do. I had never teleported in front of Claire. I suppose it was a shock to her. She was a no talent, and it must have shocked her. I could see she was repulsed by the idea of it. They hate talents? Alright. What is this, X-Men? I'd been sleeping with her, Johnny. I guess it was pretty foreign. Like finding out the guy you'd been making love to was an android or some such. She ran away. I was shocked at her attitude, and I just didn't follow her. Then I heard a screech, and she screamed, and I teleported to the source of the scream, and she'd been hit by a truck, trying to cross the street. Oh, it wasn't my fault, nothing like that, and no guilt complex or anything, but, well, you know. I had to get away from things. So I took the fly just like that. It was finished, I said. Just like that? You ever going back, Sam? He shook his head. I don't suppose so. I'll find her someday. I said, huh? He glanced over. and there was a hurt in his eyes. Yeah, I suppose I never told you this. Probably think it's a crazy idea. Everyone else does. She's in heaven. Nothing crazy about that, Sam, I said. Big magnanimous that I was. Magnanimous that I was. Heaven is out there, here somewhere. That stopped it. I was back to, huh? He nodded again. Out here, on one of these, is heaven. That's where she is. I'll find her. He waved at the stars overhead. I followed his arm. Up here? Heaven? On an alien world? I didn't say anything. Crazy? No, I don't suppose it's any crazier than any other idea of heaven or hell, I replied soberly. It gave me the creeps, frankly. I'll find her. I sure hope so, Sam. I sure hope so. He fell asleep before I did. We could sleep with something like that. Who could sleep with something like that to scare the crap out of you? What? We hit Gulites 2 on a Thursday, and by the following Friday a week, we had a command performance scheduled for the Gulian royalty. It was a wonderful deal. Once we had performed and pleased the court, our success on Gulite 2 was assured, because they had a real monarchy plus setup on that world. Monarchy plus, whatever that is. Sorry. And if the court liked us, the High Glub Glub, or whatever the hell they call the king, would send out a proclamation ordering all his subjects to attend or suffer some penalty. So we'd all be set. We ran through the acts in the palace, which was a great mansion, twice as big as Numomnen. And I gotta admit, even washed out Dolly Blaze and Fritz Bravery, and the rest were magnificent. But of course, Sam stole the show. They had never seen a teleport on Gulice 2, and Sam was a sparkling best. He was more daring and unusual than ever. There was even a trick with Felice that had everyone gasping and finally chuckling. I want to see that trick. When it was over, the king and his court invited us to a huge banquet, a ceremonial party. It was the greatest. They had huge platters of fried and braised meats, bowls of planetary fruits, tankards of ales and liqueurs that were direct lineal descendants of Ambrosia. It was the greatest. Delicious. It's making me hungry. Then they brought on the dancing girls, and they were even better. I spotted one smooth-limbed little number I decided to approach with dalliance in mind. After everyone had settled down a little, the Gulins were homebody type right down to their navels, and I wasn't worried about picking up any alien equivalents of VD. Besides, she had the cutest little. Besides, she had the cutest little poo-poo. I'd seen in months. That's what it says. that alien poo-poo. I'm there, man. This is making no nut hard, man. It says poo-poo. I'm not joking. I'm not censoring. Beatrice, the girl who assisted Sam and who I had been shacking with, was eyeing me, and eyeing a handsome brute, all tanned and wearing bronze armor, who was guarding one of the big doors. I decided to let her cheat on me, thus leaving the road clear for a little dancer. The party was well underway when the king stood up and made some big announcement about us being just in time to see Sacred Virgin Ceremony of July 2, which occurred but once every 25 years. He even hinted it had been moved up a few weeks to accommodate us in his hour of circus triumph. We all applauded and watched as they set up a high platform made of ever smaller gold risers. It was quite a thrill. We were all gathered around at one of... Should I make a summary? There's so much that happened. Alien circus, basically, going around. In case you're watching, I don't know with a bunch of different acts, and one of them can teleport. Who's the most epic one? And now they're having some sort of feast. And the Tali's looking for a girl in heaven. And Poo-Poo Alien. What the fuck is this? I don't remember it being this weird. I'm sorry. I gotta finish it now. It's only 3 pages left. I don't know how this is gonna end. What the fuck? Sorry, I forgot where I was. I decided to let her cheat on me, thus leaving the road clear for a little dancer. The party was well under the way when the king stood up and made some big deal announcement about us being just in time. Yeah, I read that, sorry. We were all gathered around at the one end of the ceremonial hall, with the pyramid risers at the other. We weren't interested in the least, about the ceremony. But to be polite, we watched as they set up some sort of chopping block affair and put 2 burning braziers beside the block. It was getting more interesting by the moment. While most of the circus folk were still gorging themselves on the food and fruits overthrowing the table, Sam and I turned full around to watch this. I heard him mumble something about picturesque native ceremonies and nodded my head. The king signaled to one of his bully boys, and the bully boy swung a long-handled clapper of tapestry hanging from floor to ceiling beside him. They must have had a gong concealed behind it, because the sound almost deafened me. Then the king, of his title I'm not sure, but the rank was obvious, spoke for a few minutes on the history and traditions of the Sacred Virgin ceremony. We didn't really listen too closely, mainly because he was speaking in similes, and the noise from the crowd around us drowned him half out. But in a little while we got the impression this was very important stuff to the Gillians. And when the king clapped his hand, we turned to the gang and tried to get them to shut up. Those slobs would rather eat than think. They didn't shut up till the gong sounded again, but then the gray hooded man with a gigantic meat cleaver brought the pretty blonde girl out onto the platform. What's gonna happen? They all signed off like we'd cut their vocal cords. She was a magnificently beautiful creature. Her hair was long and blonde, and her body was full and straight. Her eyes the deepest and most lustrous brown I've ever seen. The executioner, hell yes, that's what he was, helped her over to the block, and her face was very calm. Calm, it seemed. The way someone's face would be if they were dying of cancer and knew they could do nothing about it. But this young girl wasn't dying of cancer. She was about to have that gray hooded man chop off her head. It was apparent that was about to happen. A sacrificial ceremony. The hooded man helped her to kneel before the block, and she lay her head in the notch. The executioner pulled her hair away from her neck, gently, and laid it over. Is this a Skyrim meme happening? And laid it over her left shoulder in the long blonde streamer. Then he tested his hatched edge and stepped back. He planted his feet wide apart and swung the axe up. Everybody screamed, and it sounded like a million buzzsaws. Before anyone could do anything, the executioner brought the axe down, almost touching her neck, to get the proper placement for the real swing. That was when I heard Sam's muted gurgle. He had been mumbling there beside me for over a minute, and I hadn't realized it. I was so engrossed in watching the tableau on the chopping block. Then I heard him mutter, "Claire." And I knew there was going to be trouble. I saw him stand up out of the corner of my eye, and as the executioner swung the axe up in two-handed whirl, Sam disappeared from beside me, and the next instant, before the blade had a chance to fall on that lovely neck, he was there. His arm snaked around the gray-hooded man's neck, and his hand shot out to catch the descending handle of the axe. He wrenched Sorry. He wrenched the death tool from the man's hand and threw it with a spinning clatter to the floor of the chamber far below the pyramid. Then his fist came back and caught the hatched man across his hidden face. Hatchet man. The executioner stumbled, and Sam doubled him over with a belly blow that made the face behind the grey hood scream. Sam straightened him with a right to the tip of the jaw, and the hatchet man went caroming off the pyramid. He landed with a sick thump. A sick thump. The king was on his feet, livid with rage, and the court screaming, "Profanity! Outrage! Transgression!" The king clapped his hands, and dozens of 10 bully boys, one of whom was Hog Beatrice had been ogling. Raised onto the pyramid and grabbed Sam around the waist, the neck, the legs, and of course, he teleported out of their grip. He was back beside me. The king was leaping up and down, screeching at the top of his lungs, "To get that man!" Sam stood impatiently waiting. Then King Groth walked over and said, "Stand still, Sam. Let's find out how much damage you've done." He went to talk to the other king. Wait, there's 2 kings? Now I'm really lost. What the fuck? Groth was a sharp operator, and if anyone could pour oil on the waters, it was him. It's like a fucking ad. This is more appropriate. What the? What the fuck is this? Sorry. So he was back beside him. He went to talk to the other king. Groth was a sharp operator. Yeah, it was him. We watched as he talked to the king, who was getting more furious and apoplectic by the moment. Sam, I said quietly. "Why'd you do it? For Christ's sake, why?" He looked at me and said, "This isn't much like heaven, isn't it?" Then I knew he had found Claire. The blonde girl still kneed beside the chopping block. She had not moved, except to raise her head from the notch. King Groth came back, and his face was gray. "Sam, they say you have to die." Big Sam looked at him and didn't say a word. I don't think he cared, really. "Look, Sam, we're going to fight this. They can't do it to a homebody. We can fight it, don't worry." The king rushed over and started screeching something. "Listen," I piped in, just to stop him. "He's a sick man. He didn't know what he was doing. You have to remember he knows nothing of your local customs. It didn't make a bit of difference. He must die. That is the reward for interrupting the sacred virgin ceremony." We argued and hassled and made a big stink out of it, and I think the only reason we all didn't gallop out of there and pull our stakes was that we were afraid we'd all be held and executed. And Big Sam was the only teleport in the crowd, and there was something else. Something I'm afraid and ashamed even today to say. I think we were all afraid of losing the business. That's right. Pretty disgusting, innit? We could have set Dolly Blaze to the burning joint, and we could have escaped. We could have done at least 100 things to distract the Gulins, but we were afraid we'd lose the business, and we were almost willing to let the man die for that. Finally, though, the king said, "We must leave it to the sacred virgin, then. Let her decision be the one." That sat okay with us. We wanted a way out so bad that it didn't matter, and we all looked at Sam. Softly, the hurt came back into his eyes, and a softness surrounded his mouth, and he nodded. "That's fine," he said simply. We all walked up the pyramid and looked at her. She was very clean and simple looking, just the way I'd imagined Sam's Claire might have looked. Sam's Claire. We all stared at her, and with a sneer, she snarled, "Let him die." And that was that. They took him up to the block, and they removed her, and they shoved Sam's head into the notch. Then someone made the motion that he'd be hung because the block was reserved for the sacred virgin. So they strung up a fiber rope right there in the beautiful hall, and they put it around Sam's neck. And 10 men got onto the other end of the rope that hung over a beam from above, and we just watched. Can you understand that? We just stood there and watched as Sam was prepared for hanging. I tried to stop them, finally. I suppose I came out of my trance. Wait, you can't do this! But King Groth and 2 of the performers grabbed me by the arms and held me. This is their world, Johnny. Let them do what they have to do. And Sam looked at me, and I could see it in his eyes that it didn't matter to him. It was the same hurt all over again. He had been wrong. He did have a hag writing him about Claire's death. This was one way to clear it up. They yanked on the rope and Sam went up. He hardly twisted or kicked or twitched. I couldn't watch. Because there were a couple of things that made me ill way deep inside. The first was knowing King Groth and the circus, even myself, had sacrificed this nice, quiet guy with a problem for the sake of a credit. And the other thing, the thing that really stopped us from trying to help him, I think, was that Sam wanted to die. He could have teeped out of that news any moment, but he didn't. He let them lynch him. He had squared away with Claire. We finished our tour on July 2nd. Sam had been right. It wasn't much like heaven. I didn't like that one as much. Sorry, I thought it was better. It's interesting, though. They did him dirty. They did him dirty like that. It's still good, yeah. But the first one is his best work. I read all the rest. I don't think they're really worth. At least now. Reading Twilight next? Hell yeah. It's not very spooky either. I don't know. I don't like really necessarily spooky stories. I like it more when they're twisted, I suppose. I think that's why I like them. I enjoy reading, though. It's fun. Hope you guys enjoy as well. It's fun. Something different. Thanks for hanging out. I might do another reading next time. Probably not horror, though. We'll do something different. Kafka could be good. They're quite short. Hell yeah. Cool. I'm glad. That was fun. Thanks for joining, guys. The symposium. That's short. That's always good. I'll find something that I'm interested in. I only like the first one really, and it's not that great, but I'll pick something better next time. Someone sent 100. Thank you, Atlas Supreme. Where? There it is. Destroy that book. Okay. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. I'm gonna end it here. Have a great one. Appreciate ya. Brofist. Yeah.